Hi everybody. So this video is going to be corresponding to section 1.8 in your group shared notes from chapter 1. Okay, so it should be titled AP Science Practices. So this will be a short video followed by another one that will cover section 1.3. All right, so when you took my class in 10th grade, we talked about the next generation science standards and the science practices for the AP Bio exam. They are fairly similar to the NGSS. So we're just going to go through them. So I'm going to walk you through them and then I'll help you fill in your notes. Okay. So science practice 1. So science practice 1 is all about modeling and representing information with a model. So for example, just like when you're about to get onto a plane, right? If I were to ask you to model the steps for how you get onto a plane, you would model the fact that you need a ticket, right? And then where do you take that ticket? You can't just walk right onto the plane. There's a checkpoint that's called security, right? So then after security, then you're able to access the terminal and get onto the plane. So there's this process to get onto an airplane. We could model this process. Similarly, in the cell cycle, there's a sort of a very similar checkpoint sort of process to ensure that as a cell is duplicated, there's not any issues within the cell. And really, this checkpoint helps to avoid creating cancerous cells. And we know that when the cell cycle gets hijacked, that's when cancer can take place, right? Unregulated, uncontrollable cell cycling. So science practice 1 covers this concept of modeling scientific phenomena. Okay. Science practice 2 is all about using mathematics properly and appropriately. So why? Well, essentially in this class, we're going to be either collecting evidence or interpreting other people's evidence. And for you to really interpret, especially quantitative evidence, you need to have math practice and math skills. Okay, so like when you're writing your claim evidence reasoning section, you want to be able to provide a, meaningful description of your evidence, and that requires mathematics. So if you didn't realize, AP Bio, it's also fairly math intensive, okay? So science practice 3 is all about engaging in scientific questioning. So when you took my class before, we practiced this idea of asking a scientific question. So these are questions that can't be answered with a yes or a no. And this is really how you begin the process of experimental design. So, for example, you need to ask a question that leads to further investigation. So if we ask something like, does sunlight affect the growth of plants? Okay, I know that I now can design an experiment around that investigative question. Okay, so this idea of practicing scientific questioning, that is science practice 3. On to science practice 4. This is all about collecting data. Okay, so I know that we are remote, but even though we are remote at this point, we're going to be still designing the experiment, like we see here in step 3, based on an investigative question, right? And then science practice 4 is really asking us to then plant and implement an investigation around that driving question, okay? And plan it such that you're able to collect lots of data, okay? And data of all different types, quantitative data or qualitative observational data, okay? On to science practice 5. Now that is the process of now we've collected the data, right? And now we are analyzing the data and we're evaluating whether or not it supports or rejects what we have hypothesized at the beginning of our investigation. Okay, on to science practice 6. Okay, this is all about working with scientific explanations and theories, and essentially being able to, well, this is our reasoning section. Okay, so we've collected evidence and we've created the foundation for evidence collection in step 3 through 5. Step 6 is really that reasoning section of our CER, right? So reasoning is the scientific concepts and explanations and theories that support our evidence, which thereby supports whatever our claim is. Okay, and then finally, step 7 is all about expanding your understanding and being able to connect it to other themes, other concepts, other ideas in our biology course. So it's sort of that like extension piece. So if you can draw connections between seemingly isolated concepts and actually show that there is a connection between them, there's an underlying theme beneath them. That's really what science practice 7 is about. Okay, so now let me help you fill in your little highlight section. Okay, so for number 1, we have communicating with models. Okay, number 2, we have I don't know if my record went out here. I'm on number 2. Using mathematics appropriately. You could just write math. Okay. Number 3, questioning scientifically. Okay. Number 4, collecting data. Number 5, analyzing and evaluating our data. Number 6, justifying conclusions and theories and evidence to support a claim. So number 6, justifying conclusions and theories and evidence to support a claim. Okay. And then finally, number 7, expanding understanding and connections. All right. So then we're going to put a pin in it here before you move on to the next video, which will be sort of taking these science practices and now we're going to apply it to the nature of science. Okay. So in your notes, be ready to move on to section 1.3.